Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
I'm sitting here with my flag, ladies and gentlemen, which will adorn the dining room table. We've got to stick it somewhere behind because Andy does a great job and Tony does a great job. Caroline does a great job in getting the live streaming show, which will be there, Australia Day Special Edition for tomorrow. I tell you who I'm trying to get hold of, John Paul Drake. If I can find John Paul Drake and he's prepared to talk on a public holiday. He is a director of Drake's Supermarkets, who deserve all the praise and credit they can get because they are not woke. In fact, I think he was the one who came out with they should rename Woolworths Wokeworths. No, they're making a big thing of Australia Day, as we will try to do so tomorrow. There's the flag, ladies and gentlemen. You think what's happened under this flag over so many years? We're very proud of it. I'm very proud of it. My father served under it, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, lots of cousins as well. Now, I don't quite know how to approach this. Oh, I've got something later to show you, a very interesting bit with Alan Jones. I'd love your feedback on that. Maybe tomorrow on the phone, or you can text me. A report out of Flinders University yesterday. Bizarre. It was beware of the dreaded zombie viruses. Beware of the dreaded zombie viruses. Thousands of killer viruses waiting to strike us down. God, that sounds frightening. So I prick up my ears. Here's the story. The melting permafrost will turn loose these killer viruses trapped in ice for millions of years. Reported on the ABC without many questions. I mean, I'd have had a field day if I'd had this bloke in front of me. Like, how do you know this? Is there any evidence that this has happened, or that this will happen, or that this can happen? Killer viruses, frozen in ice. Who discovered this? What are the viruses that you're talking about? I reckon this is pure science fiction. Not something that you would expect to come out of a university. But wait! Why would the ABC let such nonsense? I mean, I can understand it. I can understand them putting it to air. But unchallenged? Without any questioning? I mean, what is the point? Oh, well, I can tell you what the point is. Climate change. Climate change. Of course. Any piece of fiction, any story, any angle, anything on climate change is going to get a good run on the ABC. That's part of the agenda. That's the rhetoric. Unchallenged. This whole thing is argued from a conclusion and a false premise. And I believe phony science. Of course the climate's changing. We have put down several ice cores. In fact, I think I can remember going back last year talking to you about the first one, which was an ice core, a drill going back to take up an ice core, going back 300,000 years. And recently, they drilled one going back 1 million years, which was the biggest that they've ever done. You can imagine how far they'd have to go down to get the different layers that would represent the climate changing and the seasons for 1 million years. Now, if there were deadly viruses trapped in ancient ice, as these ice cores were examined, don't you think evidence of this would have been discovered? I spoke to Professor Ian Plimer, who is very familiar with these ice cores and the stories that they reveal, and they're always interesting. He laughed his head off. More misinformation. It's nonsense, he said. Bless you, Professor, and thank God for your sanity. But I do wonder why the ABC didn't ring Professor Ian Plimer, who actually knows chapter and verse about ice core research. Oh, couldn't do that. No. That'll just confuse the people, won't it? And while we're talking about the ridiculous, breakdancing. Pete, what exactly is breakdancing?
No, I'm not sure.
Is it something that they do on the streets of New York?
I think they spin around and...
Spin around on their heads?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, breakdancing is now an Olympic sport.
Oh, no.
Yes! An Olympic sport. Well, why not ping pong? No, probably ping pong is already there. Knitting? Marbles? Maybe? Can you think of any, Pete?
Tic-tac-toe, don't they call it?
Oh, tiddlywinks? Oh, I don't know. What is the world coming to? Recalling Parliament 2 weeks early to talk cost of living, we covered this earlier in the week, I think Monday. The recall Parliament 2 weeks early for the Talk Fest cost us $500,000. $500,000. It could have waited a few days and saved us that money. As I told you, the Albanese government would renege on the stage 3 tax cuts or distort them. It's all about getting rid of bracket creep, simplifying the system, and not breaking your word, Prime Minister. But no, it's not. No. It's class warfare. Class warfare. Never mind that he's got 5 rental properties, which makes him sound more like a capitalist than a member of the socialist left. Class warfare. It's the politics of envy. Look, this doesn't affect me. I'm retired. So let me speak frankly. People who earn more money will get more benefit from tax cuts because they earn more money and they pay more tax, meaning they deserve more benefit. Not rocket science. This government is and continues to be, in my book, a disgrace. The politics of envy and an opportunity, of course, to wedge the opposition on the way through. I firmly believe the sooner this government gets the shove, the better. I'm not convinced that the Libs are any better. What do we do to deserve this lot? It's very simple in life. Works at every level I can think of. Reward and incentive. Taxes, fear and force will do exactly the opposite. Oh, of course, it will give birth and great sustenance to the big four accounting companies, who are no stranger to government largesse and subcontracts. The ABC, having spoken about it a moment ago, I think they've gone from the news of the day, just simply sitting there presenting the news of the day, to a sort of a rampant feminist, racist rant. The only thing I can think of, I don't want to digress too far, but the only thing I can think of is it must be corporate policy. Fed down to editors and producers and presenters, these are the stories, this is the angle, this is the agenda. I think it's absolutely frightening that the national broadcaster would have this face without any fear of comment or condemnation presented to the public. Doesn't matter what the story, the angle will always be to the left. And while on the subject of television, just to be even-handed, I can't help but comment on the obvious. Channel 10 have some sort of deal with soccer. Now, I know that as a network, they can or will try to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. Crappy shows like Gladiators and Survivor and all the other reality TV shows. Rubbish, just plain rubbish. But if you like them, God bless you. We all have different taste. I long for the glory days of Channel 10 back in the 70s. They had an enormous influence over my working life, people like Ian Holmes. I tried to find him the other day and tried to ring him because I wanted to just say what a wonderful influence he was on my life. Les Peard was another iconic person. Peter Skelton, yes, and Peter Meakin, great news director, fantastic news director. People who understood television, entertainment and audiences. But my comment today about the soccer, it's just a simple piece of accounting. It doesn't rate. There is no one in the grandstands. Hello? It feels a little bit like flogging a dead horse. I mean, who's paying you all the money to keep the thing alive? It does remind me a bit of Rupert Murdoch's attempt to launch the rugby league here in Adelaide. He wanted a rugby league team and he thought, well, if it's big in Sydney, we can make it big in Adelaide. Yeah. He's got great courage, Rupert Murdoch. The Rams, that's what they were called, the Rams. Now, I've got a great deal of respect for Rupert Murdoch. He had the common sense, though, to realise that it wasn't going to work and got the hell out of it. Gave it a bloody good shake, though. Cost him millions. But knew that it wasn't going to work. Cut his losses. This is what makes him a very clever businessman. Not everything is going to work. But Channel 10 seems to be on another planet. We're going to make this work. We're going to take this round peg and put it in this square hole. You hand me that mallet, I'll make it fit. Soccer may be big in other parts of the world, but it ain't here. I know there are people with an ethnic background who really love it, and God bless you, and I'm sure you'll be able to find at the suburban level all sorts of wonderful soccer games. And I think the Matildas were a great success. I hope not a flash in the pan. But sport, it's funny business, sport. Big business, I know that. A story in the Herald Sun the other day, looking at the cost of weddings. We did bring it up when we were talking last Friday around the dining room table, jeremycordeaux.com. The average cost of a wedding was $36,000. I couldn't believe that. It just seems amazing. And that's just the average that people pay. Other people pay a lot more for a wedding. Even $36,000 for a wedding, a party in other words, seems like an awful lot to me. The divorce rate running at 50%, you'd have to think twice about that, wouldn't you? Or what you'd have to do would be to maybe get not a government guarantee. All of that's these days probably not out of the question. But a guarantee from the bride and the groom. I'll throw you this wonderful wedding, but you are going to have to stay married for at least 10 years. If you don't make 10 years, I want my money back. That might fly, you never know. Is RSV the new epidemic, the new threat to our health? 128,000 people have succumbed to this, it's like pneumonia. It's a pneumonia-like virus. There is a new and expensive Australian vaccine, which is, I don't know, going to be readily available to everybody. But it's a very dangerous disease, and if you look at the flu and you look at COVID, these things are on an upward curve at the moment, so please be careful. But we've somehow managed to take it in our stride and learn to live with it. After the Woolworths political stand on Australia Day, I don't know if anybody noticed, but shares declined. Customer support through the floor. Not surprising. Businesses should stick to their core business. And if you want to send a message, as Sam Goldwyn used to say, call Western Union. But you shouldn't be using shareholders' money. The Australian Open, as you know, will not mention Australia Day tomorrow, but they will celebrate Aboriginal Day or the Day of the Indigenous and the LGBTIQ Pride Day, but not Australia Day. I think they want their bums kicked. I have no doubt that the Open is a very good promotion for Australia. But you mightn't know this, but we put in, taxpayers, $60 million every year to support it. And guess how much it is going to cost if you or I want to buy a ticket to the finals? After having given them $60 million from you and me, they'll want another $6,000 a ticket. Gee, somebody's good at marketing. Another big building company, Montego Homes of South Melbourne, has gone bust. A lot of half-built houses and angry customers. In fact, 2,340 construction companies have gone bankrupt recently. This will, of course, severely affect our capacity to build the homes we so desperately need. It's always been a bit of a boom and bust industry, but that is amazing. 2,340 bankruptcies. Just quickly, we might get a chance to talk about it more tomorrow. We lost more than 65,000 jobs last month, but that's slowing the economy, which will take the pressure off the Reserve Bank to put the interest rates up. And it's okay for me to sit here because I wasn't one of the 65,000 who lost his job. But the unemployment rate held steady at 3.9%. The participation rate is down a bit, but all in all, there is less pressure, upward pressure, on interest rates. I think that's probably a very good thing. And the other thing that we mentioned and got considerable comment on, which we could continue tomorrow, when should a child seek gender reassignment? What do you reckon, Pete?
No child should seek it, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, no, if you're a child, you do what your mother and father say.
18. What's adult to 18?
Adults are 18, yes.
No child should
No, well,
make that decision.
I was absolutely gobsmacked. I couldn't believe that the official answer to when should a child be able to seek gender reassignment, 3 years of age. 3 years of age.
That's insane.
It's insane, and somehow we have to get rid of these crazy people. It's absolutely scary. How over time am I, Pete?
Well, that's up to you, Jeremy. I mean,
No, because I want to run an Alan Jones
Yeah.
bit at the end.
yeah, we're at 20 minutes now.
Okay, well, all right. Okay, let me give you a couple of interesting dates. January 25, tomorrow, Australia Day. Flags, bunting, barbecues.
Yes, I'm having one.
Good boy, absolutely. Tony wants us to have an Australia Day barbecue, but he wants me to. He knows I love my possums here at the house. I feed them every night. Oh, we feed them every night. I had to take my ring off, which never comes off, because I got bitten last night. Ouch. I was just trying to give him some food. Took the finger instead. Anyway, Tony says, well, bring over a couple of possums and we'll cook them up. And we'll have some fried insects or termites or... Oh, he was only joking, but...
Could have witchetty grubs.
Witchetty grubs. You ever had a witchetty grub?
No.
No, I haven't. I wouldn't do that. I think that's awful. Cultural, I know, but awful. January 25. Vladimir Zelinsky, he was a former actor, television presenter, stand-up comic, and now, of course, president of Ukraine. He was born in the Ukraine when it was the Soviet Union on this day in 1978. The Australian government buys the copyright for the Aboriginal designed flag by artist Harold Thompson. That must have been a wonderful moment in Harold's life. $20 million. $20 million. 2022. It's a pretty flag, but it just doesn't mean anything to me. And if 3% of the population think that it means something to them, God bless them. Let them put them up in every house they have, but don't let them parade around like it is a national flag.
I'm just curious, is he Aboriginal?
I don't believe he is, no.
Interesting.
Well, I'm prepared to stand corrected, because these days you have to be really careful, because somebody who looks very European can claim to be, or indeed is somewhere in his or her background, an Aboriginal. I don't know. But maybe I'll research that a bit and let you know. What else? First US patent for a seeding machine. Erskine Spooner. What a great name. In Vermont, 1799. I guess that would be something that would run around, and instead of planting the seeds in the field, you'd have a little machine that did it. Clever man. The music premiere of Felix Mendelssohn's Wedding March, first played at the wedding of Queen Victoria's daughter, Princess Victoria, to Crown Prince of Prussia in 1858. Can you imagine what it would be like, Pete, to have the copyright royalties for the Wedding March? Dun, 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 dun,
You'd be very wealthy.
You'd be very well. You wouldn't have to do anything for the rest of your life.
Right.
A little bit like, what was his name? Harold Thomas. Christian Barnard. Talked to him once. He transplanted a heart, adding a donor heart without removing the old heart. 1974. I guess it was a bit of a backup. Thomas Edison and Alexander Graham Bell formed the Oriental Telephone Company on this day in 1881. Russia declares a Republic of Soviets in 1918. Henry Fox Talbot exhibits early photographs of the Royal Institution in the UK. Well, okay, fair enough. So the soda fountain was patented by Gustav Dawes in 1870, and the doomsday clock moved by 30 seconds to 2 minutes to midnight on this day, 2018. By 2 minutes to midnight, I think you'd be heading for the exit, wouldn't you? Let's hope we lurch back from the brink. Thanks so much for being with us. I look forward to your company tomorrow. We'll be live streaming from the dining room table, jeremycordeaux.com, from 9 o'clock till 12, Australia Day. Lots of interesting guests. Alec Antic is going to be with me. Leon Biner is going to drop by. Les Ellicus is going to be on the phone. Oh, lots of interesting people. Oh, yes, there's a wonderful program I just happened to see on television about dogs. It's called Muster Dogs. And we'll have the director of Muster Dogs. Fabulous. It's on the ABC. It's a non-political part of the ABC lineup, you understand? Which is why I was watching it. And I love dogs. You love dogs?
Love dogs.
Love dogs. They actually did Kelpies last year. This is the new year where they're using sheepdogs. But I don't know the difference between a Kelpie and a sheepdog. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a good show. Talk about that tomorrow. jeremycordeaux.com. Look forward to seeing you. We'll be back Monday with the regular posting and the podcasting. I'm looking forward to that. Peter Clayton behind the camera. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Believe in yourself. Happy Australia Day!
The Coalition now lead Labor on primary voting intentions. There is more to this than The Voice. The electorate is aware of the cost of living crisis. Ask someone trying to buy a house. Ask someone trying to rent. But the government is deliberately embracing high immigration and record foreign student numbers. So, up go house prices and rent, and if you can't afford either, homelessness. Industrial relations changes are favouring the union movement. Bowen and his idiotic climate change net zero nonsense is driving up energy prices, if indeed enough energy is available. Wind turbines, solar panels, all from China. And China's laughing at us. I've said many times it's government spending that is the biggest factor in the inflation problem. The former RBA board member Warwick McKibben made sense last week after the increase in interest rates on Cup Day when he said, and you've got to take this, he says, to cut inflation, there it is, raise supply through productivity, you can do that, or cut demand through less government spending, or higher taxes, or raise interest rates. Note that point. Very clear. Raise supply through productivity. Well, currently in America, there are Republican primaries taking place, though Donald Trump, sensibly, a mile in front, has not taken part. But there is this 38-year-old Vivek Ramaswamy who is absolutely brilliant. I can't get enough of him. Trump should take this bloke as his running mate. He is a graduate of Harvard University. He was born in Cincinnati to Indian Hindu immigrant parents, but they were smart. While at high school, I might add, Ramaswamy was a nationally ranked tennis player. His wife is a medical doctor. He had been an investment partner in a hedge fund and co-founded an investment firm, Strive Asset Management. He's a millionaire. Well, one of the questions to each candidate in the Republican primary was, how could you improve the economic well-being of people in the short term? Listen to this brilliant
Right, and as a CEO, the economic question is core to my vision and policy prescription for this country. Increase the supply of everything. It's the law of supplies and demand. Increase the supply of energy. That brings down the cost of energy, grows the economy. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear. Increase the supply of labor in this country. Stop using our taxpayer money to pay people more to stay at home instead of to go to work. Increase the supply of housing. People don't talk about this one in the Republican Party. The land use restrictions are constricting the supply of housing. That's making housing more expensive for ordinary Americans across this country. So that's the true answer. And I think it takes a CEO in the White House who actually understands this to get this done. Because Americans at home, they know the Bidenomics is a lie. Prices are going up. Interest rates and mortgages to buy your home are going up. But wages have remained flat. That's the hard diagnosis for our economy.
Well, all of that applies to Australia, doesn't it? That bloke's smart, but he says increase the supply. Now, I've mentioned many, many times, the more bananas on the market, the cheaper the bananas. And that, as Ramaswamy has said, reduces costs and reduces inflation. Now, get your head around the fact that the NDIS is projected to cost taxpayers more than $60 billion by 2030. $60 billion. Overseas migration, net, 563,000. This is under the Albanese government. Net, 563,000. That's 100,000 more than the entire population of the ACT, and that's in 1 year. Foreign students, well, student visas in September total 650,000 visas. Let them come into the country to study here. 650,000. 10 years ago, it was 340,000. We've gone mad. I mean, Labor has lost its senses. And then, of course, energy and Bowen. Has Bowen not heard of the World Economic Forum paper released on October 26, which outlines the shelving of several large wind projects in Europe? Now, I've talked about this many times. Again, it is supply. If everyone has gone mad on net zero and they want solar panels and wind turbines, the cost of solar panels and wind turbine goes up. And that's where we are. Then they've got to be shipped here. And remember, Bowen wants 22,500 watt solar panels every day this year and for the next 7 years. You've got to get your head around this. He wants 47 megawatt turbines every month this year and for the next 7 years. And then at least 10,000 kilometres of transmission lines. Put simply, Bowen should be sacked. The bloke has gone nuts. Where is the opposition saying this won't work? This next election is winnable on energy alone. The Prime Minister, his party and the government have been brought back to earth. Labor's primary vote is the lowest since the election, and it won't get any better. Where is the opposition with a suite of simple policies to address this government's stupidity? It's clear that the Albanese government is in a disarray of its own making. It's hard to say who the most dangerous one amongst them is, but you can't go past this fellow Chris Bowen. He just turns people off. He cost Bill Shorten the Prime Ministership with the ridiculous tax policy. Remember, then he said, oh, if you don't like it, don't vote for me. Well, they didn't. Shorten lost the unlosable election, or Bowen did. And then The Voice. There was Bowen salivating and waving his finger in the Parliament in support of the yes vote. And what happened in his own electorate? 34% voted yes, 66% voted no, credibility, zero. This is the bloke who's shutting down coal mines, leaving gas in the ground and prospering the farcical notion that we can survive with renewable energy. We know the cost of this. There, look at the bloke. Oh, he's pointing at them. Oh, he knows everything, eh? We know the cost of this if business is ground to a halt, if the commercial world is left stranded, or if cars start running into one another in major cities at 8 o'clock at night because the traffic lights have gone out. But there is another cost. Consider this. New South Wales now employs 25,170 coal miners. 25,170. We learned today New South Wales is set to eclipse Queensland as Australia's coal mining powerhouse. Beijing has removed its export bans. They need our coal to build solar panels and wind turbines, which we then import from them. Stop shaking your heads. But New South Wales has shipped $3.3 billion worth of coal to China in 8 months. And Bowen wants to shut down coal mines. New South Wales miners exported 21 million tonnes of coal to China between January and August, and they've lifted exports to Japan, South Korea, Taiwan and India during the Chinese ban, such that the workforce in the New South Wales coal industry is more than double what it was in 1998. In the Hunter region alone, 15,100 jobs. And reports this week say that New South Wales miners are pushing to fast-track 15 coal projects, mainly seeking to extend existing operations. But that represents $3.7 billion in investment opportunities for the regions. But you've got the Greens, Bowen and the climate activists saying, get rid of coal at a time when more than ever, coal mining has become increasingly critical to regional communities and the state economy. Now, of course, state Labor, or the Labor governments, know a golden egg when they see one, so the New South Wales government has increased the coal royalties, and in Queensland, coal producers will pay an extra $6.5 billion over 2 years in royalties under the Palaszczuk government's royalty regime, brand new regime. So I wonder if Bowen could answer two questions. The first, when you ban coal and gas and shut down coal mines, where is the revenue they generate then going to come from? Second question, if banning coal and gas is not economic vandalism, how would you describe it, Mr. Bowen? This is the bloke who cost Bill Shorten the Prime Ministership. Bowen will now cost Albanese re-election, though I must add Albo is doing a pretty good job himself in relation to that.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.